So we're actually going from Basel to Zurich. I'm based in Zurich. My name's Lauren Hawker-Zafer. As introduced, I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Squirro. So Squirro is an enterprise generative AI platform. And I'm going to be hosting this panel today, and we're going to look at scalability in enterprise applications. Now, I've been joined by Dr. Nikolay Burlutskiy. He's the generative AI platform lead at Mars, and also Sandeep Mehta, who's the senior staff engineer of AI and data at Dojo. Now, I'd love to introduce them in a little bit more depth, but I think it would be better if you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your own affinity to generative AI. Maybe you can start, Sandeep.
Hi, I'm Sandeep. I'm staff engineer for AI at Dojo. I have been building distributed platforms around data for last 10 to 12 years. And last 2 years, as everyone else's role has shifted a little bit, I shifted my role completely on working building GenAI platform for Dojo. Yeah, that's me.
I'm Nikolay. I'm senior manager of generative AI platform at Mars. So my background, I started playing with LLMs during my PhD, and then I worked for several companies, and I would say with GenAI excitement, I worked for AstraZeneca, where we worked on generative AI models. And now, since December last year, I'm leading GenAI platforms at Mars, where we build enterprise-level system for associates of Mars, around 140,000 working at the company.
Nice. So scalability is quite a popular topic at the moment, and I think it would be good to understand. How many of you in the audience have used generative AI? Okay, good. How many have done a POV, POC, been involved in a POV, POC? And how many of you have actually scaled GenAI enterprise-wide? Okay, so we're talking like 3, 4 in the room. It's a complex problem, and it's a problem that a lot of both vendors and enterprises are looking at the moment. And it can obviously be taken from 2 different angles. It can be taken from a technical and a business angle, and hopefully we'll cover a lot of different components in this conversation. The first thing that we want to touch upon, obviously, is what does scale actually mean? Because I'm sure that you had your own connotation with scale. Is scale size? Does scale mean bigger models? Does scale mean more data? What is scale?
I think scale, in my view, doesn't mean a big model or a very beefy LLM model. Scale means solving a problem, doesn't matter by a small model or a big model, and then scaling it to be used by more and more users, whether it's internal or external. And that goes to then it becomes a SaaS problem, right? Every single application you make, then you have to scale it just in a normal way, like your platform infrastructure has to be scalable. You need to have governance guardrails for that to scale properly in different geographical locations. It has to, now with AI, every different country kind of have different laws. So when you build a solution and you want to scale it in multiple geolocations, you need to make sure that you follow those data privacy laws more, like they're more important now. So yeah, scale means building a solution and making sure all aspects of infra, governance, security, and then the architecture to be handle that many users at a given time. That's what scale is for me, not just very big models and big context windows or that kind of stuff.
Okay. Is it the same to you, Nikolay? Or is it something different?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I would like to add also scalability in terms of cost is very important. And when you scale, let's say, from, I don't know, 5 users to like thousands, hundreds of thousands, then the cost becomes, magnitude level. And for example, what we are looking when we are scaling, also how we scale in cost-efficient way. So we still provide benefits to, let's say, associates, but also do it in a way that it's optimal in terms of its cost. And for scalability also, if you have one model that suits, let's say, 5 people for specific use case, scalability, how to keep these models still and platform general, with the minimum twist you can fit for, let's say, a specific use case. So this balancing, getting it right, providing some generic capabilities, but at the same time providing processes, tools, skills that smaller teams, diverse teams can still build something in a controlled, safe way.
I would certainly agree. So one of the things that we're doing at Squirro is we work in we work in highly regulated areas and highly regulated spaces. And what we've seen with scalability is that there's 3 factors that are of crucial importance. That's privacy, accuracy, security. And with that comes the complex problems that you're looking at data. So the vectorization of data on large data sets, terabytes of data. You're looking at permission handling at scale, both on internal data and client data. And you're also looking at version controlling at scale. So making sure that you're not getting a version from 2 weeks ago, but you're getting a version from yesterday. How do enterprises go about making sure that they can scale, and what do those 3 factors mean in scalability?
So the way we are going at Dojo at the moment is we're building this foundational layer, which has like a model serving layer, then data access layer, then there are components of RAG templated, then you have layers for MCP as well, and moving forward, we'll have layers for agentic architecture as well. So why we are doing that is like, we are setting the foundations right. So when it comes to scaling, not just one solution, when it comes to scaling AI generally and embedding that into workflows wherever it is needed, it's very easy for any engineer or any so-called developer to actually go and use that framework and embed that out of the box. And that will handle all of these things. It will handle the security. It will handle security like the right people should have access to right tools, models. It will handle all the governance because that will be embedded as a code. So when they use that framework, they have to follow certain processes, and those processes are governed, not just a governance document written somewhere. So, and then when it comes to scaling the infrastructure, that will also come out of the box because, hey, I want to enable auto scaling on my application, and then the cost behind the scene also. So you completely, you're collecting all the metrics of these applications or the usage of GenAI, and then you're building dashboards around cost or how they're performing and how you are evaluating the output. So making sure that we can evaluate the output, making sure that we can catch the drift of the output, because slowly you see that what today somebody was asking GenAI is completely different what they're going to ask in 2 weeks, what you said about version. And catching that in the flow. And I don't know, having PagerDuty alerts, like if something goes wrong, even with the model behavior, because let's say it's weekend and the model starts to behave completely weird. And over the weekend, the customers are going to get pissed off because your model is not behaving the way it should be. And then it should give you an alert, hey, you have to go and fix it up. So that kind of foundation layer we are building so we can scale it properly and make like AI embedded in every single workflow wherever it is needed.
Did you have a similar experience, similar problems, because you were also looking at scaling your AI solution in Mars as well?
Yeah, I would like to add that there are guidelines which we follow, for example, from National Institute of Science and Technology, NIST, on test evaluation validation and verification of models. This prescribes, let's say, in what way and how you should scale your models, how you deploy them, how you monitor them, and also risk management framework in our kind of guideline helps to make sure that the scaling is happening right way, in a controlled way. And also, as you mentioned, observability is very important. When you have a huge system with potentially a lot of users across different regions, different teams, AI observability becomes critical. And what I mean, like it involves like different guardrails, for example, that you can check that prompt and generated output not violating some policies, whether it's internal policies or more like global policies. And the idea is also you can have sort of think about AI observability cockpit, where you can sit and flag and actually set up your red teaming alerts and something like that, and capture different types of, let's say, red flags. Many of them potentially could be false positives, but still you need to have that information, especially if something goes wrong, so you can have that captured. And for guardrails, yeah, also you can have different features, for example, analyzing the source of truth for the generated output, or like faithfulness of the response. And I think, yeah, it's, I would say, a developing area. And personally, I find it's, yeah, very interesting and important to have this observability in place.
So, Sandeep, I mean, observability, how can you get observability at scale?
So if someone is selling you the solution out of the box, I'm sorry if you are already here, don't trust them. It's very difficult. AI observability is completely different than traditional platform observability, because traditional observability or testing is it's very deterministic, right? So you know what you're expecting as an output, and you can generate tons of test cases, and you know what you are sending as an input, okay? Here it becomes a bit tricky, because I'm sending NLP, or natural language, as an input, and I'm getting natural language as an output. And every time I send the same natural language as an input, I might get a different response every time. So it's very tricky, right? There are certain open source frameworks, LangGraph, LangChain, LangSmiths, they're pretty solid. But there are other frameworks, deep-eval and things like that out there, which allows you to generate a lot of these test cases and put into in the evaluation framework, like at scale. And then when you're running your application in production, for example, it's tracking all the inputs and outputs and all the details. And then behind the scenes, like in a batch way, in every hour, every 2 hours, it's running those evaluation workflows. And it's evaluating whether your output is meeting certain criteria or not. And then that's how you know, like, okay, how my model or how my whole AI application is behaving. Is it behaving 80% as expected, or 90%, or 95%? Nothing is getting to 100% yet. So I think you need to just think about what your expectations are, set those expectations in certain frameworks like that, and then evaluate.
So obviously we're talking about the nuances that come with the intelligent age. And with the intelligent age, we're looking at integrating multiple intelligent components. And the more we go into the agentic lifestyle of agentic workflows, agents, then we are really thinking about, not only from a technical angle, because, building a platform, you ask yourself the question, should I go custom or should I go composable? You've also got it from an executive angle. You're thinking, if you are an executive, how do I avoid vendor lock-in? How do I avoid platform fatigue? Because the space is, as we all know, moving at an incredibly fast rate. If we're looking at orchestration, and again, it's in alignment with scale and scalability, What's your view on custom versus composable?
That's a very good question. I love that.
It's a big question.
I think it depends on so many factors, but as you just answered it, because it's an constant evolving world, and there is so much hype, and there's so much money pumped into marketing rather than building actual tools. So some vendors can be very, I'm sorry guys, I have to be honest. So, and yeah, the vendors are sitting here as well. You have to cut through the marketing bullshit and actually evaluate the tool from technical and strategic elements. You have to also check whether the vendors have the runway for next 2 years, or whether they can meet or scale with the way you want to scale as a business. That's very important as well. You don't want to have a vendor and after 2 years the vendor dies, right? Not like dies, like you know what I mean. And that's very important. So the way we took our strategy is like we say, okay, we're gonna entertain the vendors. Of course, we don't want to build everything by ourselves, but we're gonna have some custom work done or adopt some open source tools and frameworks just to be safe as well. And then we're gonna go after the vendors and choose the vendors, let's say, if they solve a particular domain problem. So let's say if someone is a very good expert in solving fintech problems or legal documents problems, like for example, like Harvey is really good for lawyers, right? So if we were a law firm, we would go for them just to try it out, right? But if I have to build something internally, parsing some PDFs and having an agent to make a decision on whether this PDF is giving me enough evidence for a case or something, I would say, okay, you know what, I'm gonna just build it using LangChain or LangGraph or Crew AI or something like that. So I'm gonna keep in balance, and that's how we have designed platform in Dojo as well, regardless whether it's AI or not, when it comes to SaaS vendors as well. So I think we need to be mixed, and then always, whenever you go for a vendor, think about an exit strategy in your mind. Like, vendors change their prices every day, and they might come up after 2 years some very aggressive pricing. And if you have so much logged in, you don't have any choice either to do a 6 months big migration or you have to pay that money. So you need to think about those elements as well.
Yeah, so buy versus build, I think we ask this question almost every day. And yeah, as you mentioned, this AI area is very hot these days. So, I mean, it's good and bad, right? It's good that there are so many different companies providing different types of tools. Of course, it's important to understand and have skills to understand the actual technical novelty or complexity, and not only whether that particular vendor solves the problem, but also how easy it is to integrate in, let's say, enterprise platform at a company level like Mars or. Yeah, and another challenge is, it's changing all the time. So, our approach is we build modular, composable systems. So it means different, let's say, vendors can provide us with different tools, and we are exploring different ways how we can plug into our platform, but also whether we can connect for different models or different systems. And also, I think it becomes more and more critical potentially with regional differences. Yeah, for example, I'm sure most of you heard about DeepSeek model, right? And there were a lot of debate in terms of can we use it, cannot. And for example, Microsoft now provides DeepSeek model, which is hosted on Microsoft, let's say, hardware and premises. But the thing is, in the future, potentially will be more and more models, which will be more specific in terms of what kind of problems they're solving, but also regional, and will be evolving regulations around this. And yeah, at the moment, many models are America-based models, coming from companies like OpenAI or Google, but there are also European companies like Mistral, which is lightweight, and potentially will be more involvement in terms of building models and running models on premises. So I think it's an exciting time, and yeah, it's really impressive to see how many companies are building tools and solutions, and yeah, and I'm sure like bigger companies will explore this space.
I mean, it is an exciting time, and there's certainly a lot of exploration, but one thing that we've not touched upon is obviously the cost, in making sure that if you are going down this route of modularity, and also testing and seeing what can be offered, why would you not just go for a platform that would orchestrate the necessities of the workflows that you want to either automate or actually sort of, yeah, synergize?
That's a really good point. And when I said like cut the bullshit and get into, I think that's right now our focus, and I think most of people who are starting their journey in AI, the first focus is to increase efficiency internally, right? Because if you don't succeed, nothing goes wrong. Like you're not surfacing, like the customer doesn't know about it, right? Anyways, coming back to that, if I'm choosing a solution where the ROI of building that solution is much more than using human, what's the point, right? So I was talking to one of the vendor, and they were telling me, it's amazing, everything is good. I said, okay, how much is going to cost me? And they were saying, oh, it's going to cost you that many dollars per conversation. I was like, okay, then I'm not going to go with you because it doesn't make any sense. So you need to make sure that you calculate the ROI when you choose a vendor or a platform, because that's what we are after, right? Increasing efficiency is the first step using AI. And if I have to pay a lot more money to build an AI application, which I can just solve by using a human, I would rather go that way. Because at the end of the day, it's all about money.
Yeah, cost is absolutely important, and for me it's really impressive how cost for models went down. For example, yeah, so Sam Altman was mentioning that training GPT model was like hundreds of millions, potentially very expensive, and also how you calculate these costs to train a model, right? If you look into like DeepSeek technical paper, you'll see that, yeah, they kind of provide information how long it takes to train, and then you can understand how much time, let's say compute time, it will be there. But you don't just press, let's say, training button, and then after like, a few days you get the model. There is a lot of experimentation. A lot of work has been done on building these models behind, and it's huge numbers. But now these models getting cheaper, faster, and also you can kind of run some knowledge distillation. You train a huge models with billion parameters, then you can run some knowledge distillation and have like a model with just millions parameters, which performs as good as a big one. So I think like the costs are going down, but at the moment, yeah, especially for smaller companies, I guess it can be prohibitively expensive. But I think, yeah, the future is bright in terms of, yeah, it will be more and more accessible.
So if we are to look at the future, because I know that I'm conscious of the time as well that we've got left on the stage, but maybe looking ahead to 2026 then, what does scaled and sustainable Gen AI look like to you? And how are you contributing to that as well?
We want to make AI boring, like completely boring. What does that mean is like, we don't want by 2026, if somebody is working on AI project within the company, it's not a hype anymore. So for that, we have to do a lot of work, put the foundation, change the culture, allow people to take risk in a controlled, cost-effective way, and make sure that AI the workflows have AI embedded wherever it's necessary. That's kind of the goal, and that's what I meant, make AI completely boring. So it's not a hype anymore. That's like what our target is within Dojo. And what we are doing is right now, we already did like big discovery. So I would recommend everyone to talk to your internal stakeholders, people, and find out what are their main problems, because AI is driving it will drive a new wave of it. It's already driving a new wave of automation. So you'll find out there's a lot of problems, a lot of manual work happening, and then you go and pick and choose 10, 20 of them and build them, and that will give you a confidence. It will help you build your platform, it will help you build your foundations, and it will make AI boring for you.
Yeah,
Do you have the same goal, to make AI boring?
I think I will add on sustainability here, yeah, because more and more use of these models leads to a lot of a huge rise in carbon footprint, and how we can deal with it, especially when we're talking about scaling, choosing the right models for right tasks, and try to use, let's say, small models if possible, potentially models that are fine-tuned for specific tasks. So I think it's important, and for example, what we do, we monitor, let's say, not only the cost of queries per model, but also the energy and sustainability impact. And I think we'll be more and more in this area.
Great. So last question, AGI in 5 years, yes or no?
Sorry?
AGI in 5 years, yes or no?
No.
I don't know, maybe no?
No. Okay, let's ask the audience. AGI in 5 years, yes? Yes. No? So we've got a split. Okay, does anyone have a question? We've got 3 seconds left if anyone has a burning question.
Open source or closed source?
Open source means open source frameworks, technology, or
Open source models or closed source models?
I think the problem with open source models at the moment is there are very few, and there are a lot of them. Like if you go to Hugging Face, you have tons of open source models, right? But there is no credibility of those models, how they are trained. Like if you have to choose one of them, you have to actually go there, look at the data sets, look at all the information, how that is being trained, how this behaving and everything. Whereas if you go to a model like Gemini or OpenAI, there's a lot of evidence, a lot of credibility, it's being tested. So for now, I would go with the models which are hosted by vendors and which is being, like I say, closed. But in future, I would love to go with open source models, probably run those small models internally for specific small problem. But I think we are far away from that at the moment.
Do you want to answer or not?
Open source, yeah.
Open source. Okay, thanks very much, Sandeep and Nikolay. It's been a pleasure. And thank you for listening and joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.